Welcome back to Bold TV. I'm your host, Philip Michael, and let's get right into it. We're talking about Bitcoin today. Now, the extremely volatile cryptocurrency is now back up. Tech expert and Starship Capital Managing Partner John Meyer, is here to tell us what this means and what he sees as the future for the cryptocurrency. Welcome, John.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Listen, you just look like such a star. I keep confusing you with the other superstar that almost shares your name. But hey, let's talk about this Bitcoin stuff. Why did this suddenly start bouncing back?
Well, the first driver that started Bitcoin coming back finally was this rumor that Amazon would not only be adopting the cryptocurrency as a means of payment, but also that they would be developing their own cryptocurrency. Now, what's interesting about this is Amazon ended up coming out after this news story came out and said basically that they're not interested in developing their own currency, but they didn't necessarily fully shut down the idea of using Bitcoin as a means of paying for goods on the service. And so what's so interesting about that is, if you talk to, when I spend my time with, insiders within the Bitcoin and cryptocurrency world, they say one thing and one thing only. The biggest driver for Bitcoin to increase in price is what we call mainstream adoption. And I think there's no better company than Amazon to instill mainstream adoption of Bitcoin. And it really is down to just when it's going to happen and how they're actually going to do it and whether or not they're going to include their rumored own cryptocurrency or not.
Now, the way that I see it, granted from a very limited perspective, the way that I see it is, of course, you got to have the pathway to mass adoption. Amazon certainly provides at least the beginning stages of that. But you also have to have a situation where it goes from a place to park your money to something that you're comfortable spending, using for transactions. How do we get closer to that? Or will it even happen at all?
Yeah, I think, again, that's what sort of bringing in these big players can do for us. So, for example, if you brought in Amazon and said, okay, you can pay for goods and services on the platform, maybe as a part of that, Amazon, builds out more of their own sort of basic, seller portal to become a little bit more competitive with eBay to allow, regular people to simply buy and sell their own, used or even new goods and get paid in Bitcoin, allowing you to then spend that Bitcoin on Amazon, like you might buy toilet paper, for example. The other way would be for, I would say, big payroll providers. Once we see big payroll providers that are the ones powering payroll for millions of companies begin to offer Bitcoin as an option to get paid, that's going to be one of the biggest drivers as well of mainstream adoption of buying Bitcoin and selling to purchase goods.
So here's a question I have for you. Remember when, with the way we consume music with CDs, here comes Napster and they disrupt the model and they turned it digital. Then you had social networks that came. You had MySpace and High Five. Then here comes Facebook, and they become the behemoth and the market leader with the music. Apple became the market leader with the MP3s. Do you think Bitcoin will be the market leader? Will someone come in and say, look, this is what they're doing, here's how we do it right, based on the innovation that they created? Because typically somebody else will come along and stand on the shoulders of their best practice and then do something that's even greater. Is Bitcoin here to stay, or is somebody else coming out of left field, like, let's say, the big banks, or doing their own coins, or is it a stable coin? What do you see right there?
Yeah, so I definitely think it's here to stay, considering the fact that you literally can't actually fully shut it down as long as there are miners running and computers on the network. It can't be shut down similar to Napster. But I do think the story and the analogy to Napster is very accurate, simply because I do think it's still going to take a big mainstream company to likely develop their own cryptocurrency that's similar to Bitcoin and use their distribution, let's say it's Apple, their distribution of iPhones to instill that sort of mainstream adoption. And, I think we were on the way to seeing this with actually Facebook and Facebook's Libra. But what ended up happening was, in reality, Facebook was probably the worst company to do this, because they were just coming off of the Cambridge Analytica scandal and the big essentially enormous forces within the government to shrink Facebook down. So I don't know if it's going to be Libra or not at this point, but my bets are placed on one big company doing this. If it's not Amazon, I think it actually could be Apple, but it's not going to be for another 3+ years.
Which is still incredibly fast, by the way, we must add,
Yeah.
because in finance or just in life, things tend to operate in decades with new innovation. When you came out of the Great Recession, then you had these new technologies that come in, and there's and that goes up and down and whatnot. But here's a question for you: do you think Bitcoin will return to its $60,000 high from earlier this year? If yes, why? If not, why not?
I do. I do think there's enough
Okay.
institutional money out there to bring the price of it back up to that $60,000 range. And then what we also see is more and more actually younger people getting into Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, which from a retail side, I think will work in combination with the institutional side to bring it back up. But again, the problem comes, once we bring it back up to 60,000 and we start getting into bubble territory again, it's going to be a conversation of, okay, how high is this going, and how are we going to protect, the individual traders or retail investors who might invest at these high prices and wind up taking, huge losses if it goes down again after that.
So I'm just going to put you on the spot here. Bitcoin, a good hedge against inflation, or no?
I would say no. Compared to other investments, it's just there are far more safer investments out there that are less volatile than Bitcoin for the average trader.
And do you think this built-in, this intrinsic volatility, will this continue? Will this just be a part of the excitement of crypto, or will it at some point stabilize?
Yeah, it will definitely stabilize. I just think it's taking a lot longer than most people expect to see stabilization. And again, that's going to only come with mainstream adoption, where you see millions, if not billions, of individual transactions happening every day that are by far overtaking these sort of giant transactions that are happening that keep swinging the markets left and right.
Right. Basically the everyday transactions that would make for a currency. Do you think that will cause a stabilization down the road?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I think the biggest way to do that is to get our country's payroll providers to actually use Bitcoin as a means of payment, or at least offer it as an option. So when you sign up to work somewhere and you're setting up payroll, you just check the box called Bitcoin and you get paid in Bitcoin instead.
Now that for sure will be a game changer. Thank you for being here today, John.
Thank you for having me.
All right. And thank you all for watching. Make sure you follow Bo TV on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Until next time, have a great day, and I'm out of here.